coverage is getting better each and every week. I think the players are figuring it out.
I think there's a huge edge in this thing for good putters and good short game wizards.
Dr. Chapinski. What's it doing again? Yes!
It is time to talk TGL. I am, of course, your host for this evening, Keith Stewart, and I am joined by the one, the only, the expert inside the SoFi Center, the man that touches more turf than any human being, certainly of anyone that I know, my good friend, Mr. Joe Idone. Welcome to the TGL Show, my friend.
Welcome to the TGL Show, to you, to our audience out there. Excited to cover it once again with you, Keith Stewart. We've got a big final week of the season, only 3 matches left. I cannot believe how fast this thing went by. You and I were both in the SoFi Center last week, caught all 4 that happened on TGL Super Week. We want to start there this week?
Let's start there. So, I'm a big fan of preferred lines, and you always open it up with yo, yo, yo. But last week you would have had to have 4 yos. We had 4 matches. And, by the time we got to the 4th one on Tuesday night, I know you and I were feeling a little bit fatigued with all that was going on inside the SoFi Center at 5 p.m. and 9 p.m., 2 days in a row. Those are long days inside the arena. Like, what was your biggest takeaway from last week where they just kind of jammed those 4 matches together? And, everyone was kind of like, whoa, by the end of it all, a lot of things had taken place. Not a lot of what you and I thought would happen, but let's just start there. What was your first impression of Quad Week?
Yeah, from a gameplay perspective, I thought it was pretty solid. We saw 2 teams basically have double headers. Both of them ended up splitting, and both of them currently sit atop the SoFi Cup standings with Atlanta and Boston. So those were the 2 teams with 2 matches. I would say what I walked away most impressed with, Keith, was, and we got a firsthand look up close and personal with the LA Golf Club and the 3 players that they were able to roll out there, all being top 5 in the world. They work together so well as a team, and they're rolling out the same lineup again this week, so I'm sure we'll get into more of that. But a really impressive 7-3 victory for them, which basically took them from a position of weakness where they were last. We got the little printout before we got in there that said that they had the least percentage chance of advancing to the SoFi Cup playoffs. Now they move all the way into that 3rd spot and in control of their own destiny. So a lot shook up. A lot can still take place over the next Sunday, Monday, Tuesday as these final 3 matches take place and we kind of finalize who's in the playoffs.
Yeah, obviously, you and I created the TGL Show because we love TGL. My biggest takeaway from last week is that the teams that played 2 in 1 night. So I know you were referring to Atlanta and Boston because they both played 2 matches last week, but Boston was spread over 2 nights. The first night, Atlanta, great showing. Looked like they rearranged the lineup, didn't look comfortable. They lose the second one. And then, the second night, New York loses both. And it just seemed to me like to have a team play twice in 1 night almost was kind of overload. So I think about this all the time. I did like when it was one match a week. It was kind of a feature. It didn't take away from the PGA Tour or some of the other things we're doing. And then like 4 in 1 week, it was like, how do we concentrate on all of these and give them their due, right? And you and I, it was like, anyone that watched the show last week realizes it was like drinking from a fire hose. For you, Joe, I mean, you've seen so many of these matches. You've been inside for so many of these matches. You've interacted with the players. What do you think is the best schedule? If we're going into season 3 and you've been ordained the commissioner of TGL, how would you set it up? And forget about the PGA Tour schedule and everything. Let's just assume things are the same for the time being. How would you set this thing up?
I would, if anything, they're in a tough position, right? Because the reason that they jammed 4 in last week and then 3 next week is because now they enter the Florida swing and we get an influx of players here within the Southeast Florida area where all of these matches take place. There were some talks about moving to a new destination on the West Coast. We'll see if that happens or not. I think potentially shifting the season a bit earlier into December. Now you're still up against the heart of college football and NFL season there, but it allows this thing to elongate maybe 1 to 2 weeks where you aren't forcing teams to play 2 matches in 1 day or 2 matches in 2 days, and it feels so crammed in at the end. Essentially, the last, 7 matches are taking place within 8 days. So it does feel like this end of the season period is a bit crunched in, and then we have a week and a half off before we start the playoffs right after the players.
And I don't think it does the regular season justice, the way that we've had these, 7 matches kind of just like railed in at the end here, because the same thing happened last year. New York came out of nowhere, and then next thing you know, they were in the playoffs and they were in the finals. And it was like, well, where did they really come from? Like, they didn't really like do anything great during season 1 that was like impressed you and I. That were like, oh, geez, this team should be in the finals. Atlanta did, but New York didn't. And it's going to be the same way this time. I mean, yes, Boston seems like they're the team that's kind of taking control of this whole thing, but like, there's going to be a team that sneaks into the playoffs here because of what they've done in these 7 matches over these 2 weeks. And it's kind of like, I don't know, like I get it. The scheduling is very difficult and everything, and it's not a perfect world. But if we could get like maybe 2 matches a week on a Monday, through most of January. And then, when we come into February and you get into Florida and everything, maybe it's like maybe 1 match each night or something. And then, it just seems to me like if it was spread out a little bit more, well, first of all, it'd be a heck of a lot easier to figure out who's going to get in the playoffs, because there would be more trends that we could take a look at. And, speaking of which, I know we're getting deep on the takeaways here, but, couple things if you're just watching TGL Show for the first time. Once Joe and I get past what's going on in the world, or a little bit of a half a recap from last week, we're going to do a little power rankings, and then we're going to preview both matches that we have information for right now. We're recording this on Saturday night, so matches 13 and 14, the information has been released by TGL. Match 15, the last regular season match, which is on Tuesday night, that information won't come out till Monday morning. Well, the TGL Show, see, I get so frustrated. The TGL Show, we're not waiting, right? We do this thing every single time. Comes out on a Sunday morning. We got to get it to the people. And we even have a match on Sunday night. It's Tiger and Rory, which is pretty impressive. But when you look at the standings right now, Joe, and we know the 2 teams are in. We know that Boston's in, and we know that Atlanta is in. There's 2 more spots that are open. There's 4 teams left. Who do you think has the best chance to get into those 2 spots with these 3 matches left?
Yeah, well, I think LA is in. I mean, I believe I spilled the beans on how much that I love this golf club, but they are in my opinion. So they're going to secure one of the 3rd spot. And then essentially you have 3 teams vying for that final spot. Now, the team in the position of power right now is the Bay. They've won their last 2 matches. They have a ton of momentum. They are in control of their own destiny, and they compete in the final match on Tuesday against a last place Jupiter team. So I feel most confident about them securing that final spot in the playoffs and getting in there, given that they're going to likely be the favorites in that Jupiter matchup. They have the easiest opponent left on their schedule, given the standings currently, and they're also currently residing in that 4th spot. So easy scenario there for the Bay, win and you're in.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. The Bay and what they've done their last couple of matches, kind of ratcheting the team together, going a little bit next level, even with some different players. And there's been a lot of that shuffling of the cards for each of these teams, but it's been very interesting. And, with all of the substitutions, it's one of the things that I couldn't wait to discuss with you this week was the power rankings. And, we've kind of, you and I, we kind of shifted how we were going to do the power rankings. We started with the teams, and it was like, you know what? You and I, we can have more fun with this. We've done it with holes. And now the assignment I gave you this week, I was like, who's in the lead for the MVP of the league? Right? Who is the guy that should be favored right now? If we're out there on Poly Market, prediction market, and it was like, hey, who do you think would be the odds-on favorite to be the MVP at the end of the regular season? Now, you got a team like Atlanta Drive. They've played all 5 matches. So we have the full resume there from their guys, but we still have every other team has at least 1 match, and Jupiter Lynx has 2, although them having an MVP and being in last place is a bit of an oxymoron, but there's some other players involved. So let's have some fun with the power rankings. Let's throw up the video. All right, let's take everybody through it. And here we go. Number 5, I asked you for the top 5 players that you thought were the best candidates for MVP of season 2 of TGL. Number 5, Colin Morikawa. State your case.
Yeah, Keith, you give me an assignment, you know I'm going to study up for it. So at number 5 this year, I got Colin. His level of accuracy comes extremely in a handy position anytime you enter into a lot of the demanding new holes that we have seen in TGL this year, which put a premium on precision off the tee. Fairway accuracy at 89%. He is the best. He's leading the league in that mark. He's also the best over a 2-season mark on par 3 scoring and since the inception of TGL. He's just fantastic, and we get 5 of those in each of the 15-hole matches. Tied for second in total points this year in season 2. And the 2 guys that he's tied with he's played 8 fewer holes than those guys. So he's scoring at a premium level. He's probably the most accurate player off the tee, and he's been really precise and one of the better players so far in season 2.
And if anyone's counting at home, he's also a winner on the PGA Tour of a signature event. Not too shabby. All right, number 4, Chris Gotterup.
The newcomer of the league, Chris Gotterup. What an absolute weapon. Free agency pickup of the year goes once again to the analytics and front office department of the Atlanta Drive, who continue to dominate TGL in that regard. He leads Atlanta in points this year. He leads them in holes played, averaging 325 off the tee, and he's 3rd best in the league at hitting greens in regulation. So he's produced at a very high level. He leads the league in single holes won. What a pickup this season with an injury to Justin Thomas when they can go and grab the number 7 player in the world in Chris Gotterup, who's been a stud.
I mean, they grabbed this guy before he won twice. Remember, he started on December 28th in match 1 when he and Corey Connors got inserted in the lineup. And everybody's like, oh, yeah, we expect big things this year out of Chris Gotterup. Now, all of a sudden, the guy's, top 10 in the world. He's got 2 wins on the PGA Tour. Nobody else has any of those. I don't know. I have a very strong case for Chris Gotterup to be higher than 4th. I'll get to that in a minute, but let's go with number 3. Who is number 3 for me?
The face of TGL, Mr. Rory McIlroy, seems a lot more locked in, I would say, in season 2. I mean, we know, Keith, Rory's a guy who likes to lead from the front when things aren't going his way. He can check out a little bit early. Not the case for the first place Boston Ball Frogs this season. He's been absolutely dominant, Keith, in the screenplay portion. By far the best player in the league, averaging 343 yards in driving distance this year. First by a wide margin. But here's the thing. Not only is he hitting it far, 3rd best in driving accuracy this year in all of TGL. His putter has been much better on the greens. I think Boston has gotten everything you would expect and then some from their best player in Rory McIlroy this year. What do you think?
I think that you have to tell everyone the story of when I caught you talking to Wyndham Clark after the match, after the early match on Tuesday, and you were asking him about, the launch monitor technology and everything, and then tell the story from there, because if Rory's at 343, tell him the Wyndham story.
Well, which part of it do you mean?
The part where you asked him about the accuracy of the launch monitor and what, if anything, if he felt was off. And Wyndham said, oh, yeah. He goes, I think this is off.
Yeah, he said some of the ball speed numbers based on where the ball speed numbers are at and how far that ball is traveling isn't necessarily aligning with some of the stuff that he's seen on the personal monitor that he uses. At any rate, Rory's still swinging it the farthest. The ball is still going the farthest in the league. So even if you tinker with those numbers a little bit, and I think a lot of it depends on some of these holes and the slope of the fairway, which these guys may not be accounting for. But I mean, Rory's hitting it further than anybody. He's swinging it faster than anybody. So those 2 numbers, ball speed, swing speed, driving distance, do line up in the case for Rory.
Regular season, number 3 in the standings for MVP. I'll agree with that one. Number 4, I'm gonna fight back on that one. But number 3, I do like that placement because there's a couple names out there that you haven't said yet. So give us number 2.
I think Tommy Fleetwood was engineered in a lab to dominate TGL. Only 2 matches so far for Tommy, so this may be a little bit of a reach, but I would expect that we see him from here on out. Of course, he's in the lineup on Monday night this week. The guy is really good in singles. He's played 4 holes in singles so far. He's won 3 points. He simply scores. The only player in the league who has played in at least 2 matches, Keith Stewart, and
Yep.
has a points scored to points to holes played ratio over 50%. What I mean is Tommy's only played 19 holes in TGL. He's got 11 points for his teams. He's scoring at a 58% rate, which is much higher than anyone else in the league. While he might not have some of the total numbers and the flashy ball speed and the long putts, he's doing everything well. We saw the chip in for him last week, which was a huge turning point in
Yep.
that match when a hammer was down.
It
He's
was.
great under pressure. He's super precise. You can put him on any hole, on any environment. He has the lowest launch degree on Stinger. Like, you put him anywhere, whatever the course set up, and Tommy's built for this league.
Hey, if they keep him in the lineup and they take down the SoFi Cup in season 2, then it's no longer going to be TGL. It's going to be Tommy's Golf League. That's for sure. All right, let's roll out number 1. I can't wait to hear who this player is going to be.
I don't know if you saw this one coming, but number 1, the MVP so far of season 2 of TGL is Keegan Bradley. And here's why. It's not just numbers driven. Keegan loves TGL. He's embraced the league.
Yeah.
He has embraced more than anyone the idea of playing for a city and playing for Boston. This is a guy who brings his family to every single match. He's bringing his son birthday cake with candles. He's interacting with the fans. He's saying hi to babies in the crowd. We saw that the other night at the match, right?
That was
he
great.
deserves this. Not only that, Sunday will make 5 matches for Keegan Bradley, all 5. He's not missing anything, and that's because he loves this league. He has played the most holes in TGL history. He currently leads all of TGL in points scored in season 2. He deserves this mark of MVP if there were such an award for TGL. He's been my top player in season 2. He's been the most consistent and best player on the best team in the league. That's who the trophy usually goes to. That's why I'm giving it to Keegan Bradley.
All right. I didn't see Keegan coming, but you bring up a good point. He will have played in all 5 matches for Boston Common in season 2. But Joe, he did it in season 1 as well.
Yeah.
He's the only player that's played in what will be all 10 matches. And I got to give the guy credit. They lost all of them last year. And you and I were there. And he would always show up with a smile on his face and try his hardest, whether he had his game that night or not. I mean, he's got a Japanese player on his team that, he can't talk English with. I mean, the guy is there. He is as solid comes. But I got to throw back on Goddard. I mean, I'll give you Keegan for number 1, although I disagree, but I'll give it to you because you're the expert. And, I'm just here hosting this thing. But Goddard is 3-1 in 4 matches. He didn't even know he was playing until like a couple days before the first match that he showed up for. You put him on Stinger, the guy comes out with a 1-iron and blisters the thing like 310 down the middle of the fairway, and they make birdie. Like, Goddard to me is impressive. He's driving it great. He's top 5 in driving accuracy, driving length, and greens and regulation, and he's got more singles holes won than any other player. So for me, a guy that just stepped in, free agent, Arthur Blank does it again. I mean, Ben Helmrath should be the coach of the Atlanta Falcons is what it comes down to. It's just that simple because what they're doing with the drive is impressive. They lose JT, and I know that they still had Billy Ho and Patrick Cantley and Lucas Glover never misses a shot. But man, oh man, to drop this guy in the lineup and to do what he's done, for me, he has the lead for MVP. But man, if he and Keegan are 1A and 1B, then I'm good with it.
Yeah, for me, it's like he actually didn't play in that last match, so they subbed him out on the second match of the day, which was probably a mistake for Atlanta, like pulling that guy out of the lineup and leaving Cantlay in to play with Lucas Glover and Billy Horschel in the second match. But yeah, he's been so solid. They lost, obviously, the matchup to Jupiter, which I didn't think he was very well. But the first 2 matches that he played, he was a star for their team. He stepped up in the big moments. For me, it's like Keegan's just been consistently that force. Not only is he on the best team currently, he's also the guy on that team. You see him there in the SoFi Center. Who's the guy on Boston Common that has the hammer flag in his back pocket of every single match? It's Keegan Bradley. So he is the leader of that team, despite Rory McIlroy being the best player. He's won the most holes in the league. Thus, I'm going to give him the nod at my number 1 spot.
Well, I'll tell you what, he's got one more match to prove it, Joe. So let's get to that right? Let's get to match 13 and 14 and preview them up. Hit the tape.
That is Tiger at its best.
Match 13, Sunday night, billed as Tiger versus Rory. We never got to Tiger, but we do have Rory. Boston Common, they're going to lead us off. They have the honor in the match. We're going Rory, Hideki, and Keegan Bradley, and then they're going to take on the Jupiter Links Golf Club. Jupiter Links is going with Akshay, Bhatia, Max Homa, and the insertion of one Mr. Tom Kim. Niall O'Connor, of course, is the coordinator for the Boston Common Golf. And we have Rob McNamara on the Jupiter Links side. I'm sure by his side will be Tiger Woods. So we're going to have Tiger and Rory. And, you know, the advantages of ESPN have been felt many times. And even last week, again, you keep saying this, like celebrities keep showing up. We were walking down the hallway in the back by the media center and Tom Brady walks by us. He's going to TGL matches. Now they're going to have Jason Kelsey help Matt Barry call the match. And Travis is coming with him for Sunday night's match. There's a lot going on here with this thing. Obviously, Boston Common is heavily favored. Do you think Boston is motivated enough to put the screws to Jupiter Links and grab the number one seed? How do you see this working out?
Yeah, I do. Kind of tale of two tales here. Jupiter is basically in a must-win scenario as they are currently in last place. And Boston, on the other side, can clinch first place in the playoffs with a win on Sunday night. Jupiter snapped the losing streak last time out. But if you remember, Keith, it was a very unique scheduling spot for Jupiter, which we were a little bit nervous of because last time when they won that match against Atlanta Drive, it was their third match in 15 days where they were able to roll out the exact same lineup. They got used to being in there. They got used to the cadence of the schedule. They started to develop continuity as a team, and it showed in that third match. Now, that was 3 matches in 15 days. That last match took place on February 2nd. This match is going to be in March. So a long time has passed. There may be some rust there for this team as they enter in a new lineup. And I think the bottom line is I just think in their first match on Monday, you know, Boston had the early 5 p.m. match. I just think Rory was gassed. Nearly won the Genesis, a tournament we know was on his bucket list. He flew back early morning. We saw him show up very late and kind of lackluster in warm-ups that day, and they just couldn't get anything going. But they have 2 of the top 3 players there on my power rankings list. You throw in a generational ball striker like Hideki Matsuyama, and the Bullfrogs will be well rested in a good spot, which I do not think is a good scheduling spot here for the Jupiter Links. They're heavy favorites, and for a good reason.
You know, Hideki had an adjustment period in season 1, and it was his first match last week on Tuesday night, the second match against New York. Hideki looked like Hideki has been in 2026. Hideki looked strong. He looked good. And I tell you what, when I start thinking about it, this is a tough matchup for Jupiter Links, but they are throwing somebody at Boston Common that has not been in the lineup yet this year because they've been out west. And for whatever reason, Tom Kim hasn't made his way on the lineup card for Jupiter Links yet, but he's coming in this week. Do you feel that, you know, he's an emotional guy? Do you feel that he could fire up Jupiter Links enough? Is this the type of change? I mean, getting away from Kisner's probably a good move, but does Tom Kim bring enough juice to get it done here?
I don't know, man. I don't think so. I really don't. I mean, I was there when they beat Atlanta, and I actually think that like Kiz was kind of like had this rallying cry aura around him that night where you could tell Akshay and Max and Tiger were like rooting him on. He said to us in the media center that he felt the noise, he heard the noise, and felt like he was on the hot seat and needed to perform well. And to be honest with you, Jupiter, I look back, won 4 of the 5 holes in which Kevin Kisner teed off in that match against Atlanta Drive. Not to disparage the influx of the energy of someone like Tom Kim, but he hasn't produced at a high enough level to make me think like this is going to be a huge added boost for them. Just 1 top 30 in his last 10 PGA Tour starts. It's a lift, certainly, and an upgrade over Kisner, but not a big enough one for me.
All right. So golf course, 5,943 yards, tough set of par 3s in this particular collection of holes. Fairway hit percentage for the 10 holes that aren't par 3s, Wait till you hear this number. The average, 56%.
Wow.
Guys are not hitting the fairway for these particular holes. And we've got 8 new ones, 8 season 2 new holes here. So more than half of them are brand new, holes that Tom Kim's never seen, but 56% hitting the fairways. I mean, you've got to be able to drive the ball well. And the last time I checked, Boston Common Golf, with whatever lineup you want, number 1 in driving accuracy and number 1 in driving distance. I don't know, man. That might be too high a hill to climb.
Yeah, the longest team in the league versus the shortest team in the league. And, there's a couple of interesting holes here that I wanted to point out. We'll start right off the bat. When Akshay Bhatia versus Rory, right, on the opening hole, they're going to hit the tee shot there on Cut the Sails. Interesting hole because Cut the Sails has a bunker right at about 310 yards you need to carry it. And if you do, it will take it all the way down by the green. Akshay played this hole last time. He was not able to carry that, pressed themselves up against the lip of that bunker, and Jupiter struggled to make par there. This hole has seen the 4 longest drives in TGL history. You think Rory McIlroy ain't about to break that record on Sunday night? You're out of your mind. He might send this thing 390 some yards onto the green. Him and Akshay also, it's an interesting matchup between those two. They get my 2, I would say, favorite holes, the new hole Caverns, which we talked about in great detail last week. Super interesting concept there that we got to see play out in real time in 2 of those matchups. And then they get Stinger. Rory I didn't even know he had this shot, Keith, but busted out that Stinger at Riviera on the 18th tee a couple of times. That'll play really well to keep it under the rock. So those 2 is an interesting matchup for me. And then, I just think Tom Kim not having the experience level in a lot of these holes or inside the SoFi Center this year, being on the West Coast, goes against Keegan Bradley, who's got the most experience in TGL. Bradley's also 7-2 in singles. Big advantage spot there in the anchor spot for Boston.
Yeah, I mean, you're calling Bradley your MVP of the league, and he's going against the guy that hasn't played yet. And my question would simply be, when's Tom Kim going to practice? He's playing in the Cognizant. I mean, he made the cut on the number, and he's down near the bottom of the leaderboard, but he's still got to play tomorrow. And, he's got to play around on Sunday, and then he's going to go from there and then start practicing Caverns. I don't think so. That's not happening. And, he versus Keegan, somebody who's there's only one guy that I know that spends more time at TGL than Keegan Bradley. And I'm talking to him right now. So those are the facts right there. And he's going up against a rookie. And, one of the brand new holes is the last hole of the night. And that one was, Stone and Steeple, Gil Hans, New England style par 5. What are we doing? What are we doing here? Right? I don't know, man. The odds, they've come out with some books. They haven't come out with others. And that's why I didn't mention them earlier. But Boston's going to be a huge favorite. We're going to have to look. We're going to have to look for some really interesting style prop bets and live updates because the number is going to be big. It's going to be by the time they go off, it's going to be minus 185 or minus 170. It could even be minus 190.
It could hit 200. They're going to be the largest favorite in any matchup that we've seen this season for sure.
Yeah. And it really comes down to when I go back to the golf course, this is a really hard golf course to drive the golf ball. And we have guys that haven't played the courses. We have guys that don't hit fairways, and it's the shortest team that there is. I mean, Tom Kim or Kevin Kisner, you're talking about, it's not the same length. I get it, but it's not over 300 yards. So, yeah, it's going to be a major struggle there. And I think, anything else to put a bow on this match. But for me, and I know which way you got to lean, and I'm leaning the same way. It's, Boston Common they're wicked good.
Yeah, Boston's back. They're going to win big.
Match 14. We'll shift over. And again, there are 3 matches this week, everybody. But match 15 information will not be released until Monday. And we've got to get this show out before the matches start this week on Sunday night when Tiger and Rory step inside in match 13. Match 14. We are leading off with the New York Golf Club. Ricky Fowler, he has the honor, the first tee. Matt Fitzpatrick and Cameron Young. On the other side, we have the trifecta, the terrific trifecta of Justin Rose, Tommy Fleetwood, and Colin Morikawa, the number 3, 4, and 5 ranked golfers in the world for LAGC. And I've seen some odds on this, Joe. There's a huge opportunity here because the books have these guys at even because they have similar records. And I quite honestly, I have no other idea why. I mean, is there any possible reason as you start to break this match down that New York could be even close to these three guys? And, like what strikes you right off the bat? What's your first impressions of this match?
We've talked about how TGL is relatively wide open, but this is a huge advantage spot for LA Golf Club.
Yeah.
We talked about them last week, right? When we did the TGL show, anyone who watched that early saw LA Golf Club as underdogs. In that matchup, we got them at plus 105. By the time we were sitting in the SoFi Center before that match went off, they were minus 125, a 30-point swing. So you want LA Golf Club, take them now if you want this team, because beyond the obvious skill and surgical precision of these three players that they have, they work extremely well together. They are very similar skill sets. They practice together. They plan every match together. We saw them, and when you're there, they are one of the only teams that does this. They read all the putts as a team. You will see all three of them rotate around that rotating green in unison. They discuss the hammer as one. They drop their egos, and they do whatever gives them the best chance to win. Colin talked about it in the presser with us. They don't have a Ben Helmrath. They don't have a Teddy Metropolis. They do this as a team because they have studied TGL. They practice together, and they make sound decisions as one. Plus, they're all top 5 players in the world. So they're a pretty good squad.
I mean, you broke it. I was going to bring up the chemistry factor myself, but you broke it down so good there. I'm not going to be redundant. What kills me about this team is that they're very accurate when they're at the screen zone. And then you take them over to the other end and they make putts and they're good at scrambling. Tommy, in that one instance last week in the match where he had to chip in order to have the hole and he does it. I mean, that kind of performance under the gun. And then when it comes to alternate shot, when you have 3 of the best ball strikers in the world and they all have to contribute, for me, it's just so simple. Like, this is why they lead the league in triples scoring. This is why they lead the league in triples holes won, because this is why they get off the quick starts in every match, just like they did last week. Like, they're just not going to miss shots. And then all of a sudden you roll out a guy that, forget even a penalty shot, they hit it in a bunker or they hit it to 50 feet on a green and they put themselves in positions to 3-putt or miss a green. Like, they are just so good together, and they're kind of reveling in the idea that they know. And you asked them the question, or maybe it was Matt or somebody else in the press room, but was like, what's it like to play like with the number 3, 4, and 5 guy in the world on the same like simulator team? And I think it was Justin Rose was like, this is pretty good. Like, we're all loving this. And you could tell they're really getting along well. This thing's like a juggernaut. And I mean, it doesn't even matter what the golf course is. Like, when it comes right down to it, give me 2 things that New York has to do before I get into the golf course that New York has to do to even give themselves a chance.
The first thing is they have to find a way to battle the best triples lineup in the TGL. Like you mentioned it there, these 3 together, they've played 2 matches together. They're 2-0 when these 3 guys are together for LAGC. They've beaten the 2 best teams in the league in Atlanta and Boston. They've played 18 triples holes together. I'm talking about Justin Rose, Tommy, and Colin. They work together as a team. They've won 10 of those 18 holes, which is an outrageous number. So New York has to level the playing field in singles and in triples and get this thing to the singles portion. And the second part of it is they just have to effectively use the hammer. And the biggest disappointment for me of this season has been New York Golf Club. They're such an unserious team in TGL. They don't seem to have any continuity together like LAGC has. They do not deploy rarely any strategy in hammer decision making or lineup construction. They forget it. They joke around in the media center. This whole thing is kind of just literally a joke to them, which is a bad look. And until that changes, I'm not backing this team. I'm as close to the action, Keith. This will be my 24th match in the SoFi Center. As close to this thing intimately as anyone. And I have to see when I'm in there that you care as a team.
Oh, yeah.
And that you're invested in winning each match, and you're not there just to show up and giggle and have some nice hot mic moments. And until I see that, I cannot raise my expectations for New York Golf Club. There is one team that is out there to win. There is one team that is rather unserious. This is pretty lopsided. We don't even really have to discuss the analytics of the course to know that.
To the serious point, Genesis, Xander Schauffele, T7, fantastic tournament, world-class player, top 10 in the world, right? Mm-hmm. 0 singles holes won in season 2 of TGL.
Yeah.
Attitude affects performance. There's no doubt about that. Let's talk about this golf course for a second. 5,978 yards, very similar, about 35 yards longer than the other track. Again, a very difficult set of par threes. We're averaging right around 193 yards. Bomber set of par fives. I don't know that I've seen an average set of par fives in the 590s. 593 for those. Fairways, guys are hitting them 69% of the time. So let the shaft out. These are some pretty wide fairways. Greens and regulation, 63%. I do this every week, so you know that I have a good handle on like what kind of TGL standard is week to week, and that's right around the standard 63, 64%. So this contest is, on paper, it kind of looks like, Joe, like, this is a golf course where both teams, which each set of 3 can kind of play, right? Ho, ho, ho. Not so fast, my friend. You're not going to believe this number. You know I love the penalty number because that's volatility in scoring. All right, all time between season 1 and season 2 on these holes. Now, 7 of the holes only came about in season 2. So the other 8 have been through 2 seasons. Total number of penalties given out, penalty shots given out on this collection of 15 holes on this scorecard, 43. Highest of the season by like 6. It's insane. So now you're talking about the number 3, 4, and 5 player in the world who are extremely accurate on a golf course that is gettable, but there's a lot of volatility and guys are hitting a lot of balls in the water or the fescue or wherever it may go. And again, the lean here, just like in match 13, the chasm almost gets wider like quick draw.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you mentioned the demand on accuracy, who that favors. We believe it favors LA. You get Colin Morikawa on what I think is a good set of holes for his accuracy. The Big Apple is a long par 5, but you have to be able to hit the fairway on that hole. You get Temple, of course, that pinches in there. You just got to hit it down the middle, right? And these guys do that as well as anybody. They're crafty around the green and scrambling. They do not 3-putt. They have plenty of experience in the SoFi Center. These 3 this season. We've seen, a lot of players have talked about the speed of the green this year and how much faster it is. And we see a lot of 3-putts now because that first putt often trickles by 4 to 5 feet. And those are not like a 5-footer in the SoFi Dome is like knee buckling, right? These guys are shaking over it because you have to hit it so softly. It gets a touch out line and it's very tough to make. So this is a concise, well-organized putting team. They work together on those reads, and they're the best from tee to green. I think no matter the course setup, I like LA. When you tell me it demands accuracy and you cannot take those penalty shots, I like them even more.
2 things I want to point out real quickly. I do love LA. It makes total sense. 3, 4, and 5 in the world. Best matchup of the night, Fitz has been good in there this year. Fitzpatrick versus Fleetwood, the 2 Englishmen. I'm interested in watching them go head-to-head. But my key matchup of the night is Colin versus Cameron. And here's why. When you break down the scorecard, and I know you love to do this too, there are 5 like high leverage approach shots that they're going to go head-to-head on, whether they be in triples or the fact that they're tee shots, they're singles. There's 5 key approach shots, and Colin is back to that major championship caliber iron game. I mean, they're teeing off on 2 par 3s, but they're alone. Cameron has got to come out and really set the tone with his approach game. We know he can do it with the driver, and he can blow it by Colin, but that's not the point. The scoring is going to happen with approach play. And these guys, of all of the matchups in match 14, they undoubtedly, it's going to come down to approach. And Colin has been really, really sharp lately. Cameron has got to step up there and get the job done. Those are the two things I'm looking at. LAGC for sure. For you, match 13, you're going Boston?
Yeah, I'm going Boston. I don't think it's an official pick for me, but yeah, I'll take Boston. It's just the odds are so juiced up.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to look for other areas with which, everybody wants a pick. Which team do we think is going to win? We started the season super hot. We've been about 500 since midseason. We got to get this back in shape. We've got to get a sweep this week to close out the regular season. We'll miss a week for the players, but then we'll be back for the playoffs. So that's where I'm going with this. We got to say the thank yous. Anyone that's watched to this point, we thank you for always watching the TGL show. The numbers climb week after week after week. We thank our producers. I thank my partner, Joe Idone, for all the work he does behind the scenes with the graphics. Of course, there's Golf Space Collective and my man, Al, DJ Whoosh, that puts all the posts up there for us. And all of our friends at TGL for the support they give us in putting this together in the coverage materials. We are super thankful for all of them. We will take a week off for the players, but we will be back the week after. And the playoffs, the playoffs are on Tuesday night. It's a doubleheader. You're going to see us drop this show on Monday morning, March 16th. And until I see you then there, Mr. Idone, I'll see you this week in the SoFi Center. But until we come back to TGL, to the next TGL show, any closing words of wisdom for the fans?
No, thanks again for checking out the show. Make sure to comment who you think is going to win this week. We appreciate everyone's support. It's been an absolute pleasure covering the regular season, and I'm fired up for the playoffs.
Sunday night, Preferred Lines, Joe Idone, John Hasselbauer. Check them out there on YouTube. I'll be with Pat Mayo on Tuesday. The Final Word. We're recording it live from the SoFi Center. I'm your host, Keith Stewart, PGA professional, founder of Read the Line. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching the TGL show. Peace.